பார்க்கலாம்.
யூ ஆர் லைவ் அப்படின்னு வருது.
செகண்ட்.
லைவ் வருதா நாரேன்?
லைவ் வருது.
லைவ்ல தான் இருக்கோம் நம்ம. ஸ்டாப் பண்ணலாமா? அப்போ என் பிராட்காஸ்ட் பண்ணுமா?
ஸ்டாப் பண்ணிடுங்க.
சதீஷ் சாரும் வந்துட்டார்.
வெளியே போய்டும் நினைக்கிறேன். ஸ்டாப் பண்ணீங்கன்னா
என் பிராட்காஸ்ட்
திரும்ப ஜாயின் பண்ற மாதிரி இருக்கும்.
இப்போ நான் என் பிராட்காஸ்ட் கொடுக்கணும் தானே?
ஆமா கொடுக்கணும். இல்ல இப்போ நீங்க அப்படியே கண்டினியூ பண்ணலாம்.
இப்போ நம்ம லைவ்ல தான் இருக்கோமா?
லைவ்ல தான் இருக்கோம். 5 வியூவர்ஸ் இருக்காங்க நமக்கு.
ஓகே.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Sir, are you able? We are not able to hear you, sir.
Can you hear me now, madam?
Yeah, we are able to hear you, sir.
Okay.
Sir, you can share your screen, sir.
Yeah, 1 minute, madam. Let me know, madam. I'm just sharing my screen. Let me know once you are able to see that.
Yes, sir, sure.
Are you able to see?
Just
No, sir.
I'll check it. No. Sir, yeah, I'm able to see you now, sir.
So you are seeing in the presentation mode, right?
Yes, sir. We are now live only, sir.
That's correct. Okay.
So we are live only. We will be starting in another two minutes, sir.
Sure, madam.
Okay. Ten thirty ஆயிடுச்சு. ஸ்டார்ட். Fans. Sorry. Start பண்ணு. சரி ஓகே நான் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்றேன்.
We will start by 10:30, ma'am. It's going on live.
ஓகே
So another 2 more minutes is there. So we'll start by 10:30.
ஓகே
May I know how this is being streamed to the other participants who are joining?
YouTube.
Hello, can you hear me?
YouTube, sir.
Okay. So the YouTube link is sent to all the participants who registered themselves, is it?
In a browser itself, it's there, sir.
No, at least I'm having only the node which was having the registration link alone. That's why I'm asking.
No, that's actually a WhatsApp. We have just messaged the registration link. Below that, we have given you the poster.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We can start. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. We'll start.
People are able to see, right?
Yes.
Okay. So do you want to check with the participants maybe to ensure whether they are able to hear?
Yeah, participants have joined and they are giving their chat also.
Okay.
So no
Yeah.
issue, sir. We can start it out.
Good morning to all of you. Extend my happy welcome to all the faculties, research scholars, and students to the webinar Robotic Process Automation organized by Department of Computer Science, Meenakshi College of Engineering, West KK Nagar, Chennai. I would like to thank our management members, Principal Dr. R. Raja, Head of our department, Mrs. Tirupura Sundari, all other department heads, and my dear colleagues. I take great privilege to welcome our speaker, Mr. Satish Inkashal, industry expert IT. He is a professional in software industries with more than 20 years of experience. He works as a service delivery manager with an India-based IT major and has been managing delivery of service to a Fortune 500 company. He worked with few other leading IT organizations during his career. During this tenure, he had worked with various US-based customers in the domains of investment banking, e-commerce, manufacturing, life sciences, transportation, and logistics. He has successfully delivered various complex application development, application support, and maintenance projects. He is a PMI certified project management professional and Scrum.org certified professional Scrum Master. He had architectured and delivered various RPA projects. He is a certified and advanced RPA professional by Automation Anywhere and also have completed RPA Developer Foundation Diploma from UiPath. He believes in continuous learning and enjoys sharing of knowledge. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thanks for the introduction note. Good morning, everyone. So before getting into the session, I would like to appreciate the time and efforts of Meenakshi College staff members in utilizing this pandemic situation, not only to conduct their classes, but also to bring in people like me across various industries to provide this platform of knowledge sharing. Thank you so much, the college team members. And hope everybody is able to see my screen. So just to set the expectation on what we are going to see in the next 1 hour. First, from an audience standpoint, I would like to go with the right expectation that this is for the beginners in the robotic process automation. So you might be able to see things starting with what is RPA. First, I would like to share information on what is this robotic process automation, why there is so much information, significance for this particular technology that has come up in the recent days. And next, I would like to make you people understand why we need this kind of a technology. Because whenever there is a invention, obviously the necessity is the mother of it, right? So the need for this RPA, we will be talking also. And then the main core area of this particular presentation, I'll be walking you through the different ways to work with an RPA tool. So I will be picking up 3 RPA tools. As every one of you know, there are like more than 20 different tools, I would say, available in the industry today. I'll be picking up specifically 3 different tools and what are the different ways to utilize that tool and to do the automation. I'll be walking you through that. And when somebody is understanding the technology, in my opinion, they will be able to utilize it better only when they understand some samples. So I'll be giving you some sample use cases as well, so that you'll be able to correlate into your day-to-day activities. With that, I'll be talking additionally about the various areas where the opportunities are available for RPA. Because normally people, for an example, let us say there is a developer who works on developing web applications today, for an example, right? So he or she might be using softwares like, programming languages like a .NET or a Java. So for them, and people like who are working on hardware, for an example, or people who are working in some other areas within the software industry, where and all opportunities available, I'll be talking about that. With that, when I said, there are many number of RPA tools available, normally I used to get this question from many people. So I would like to give a comparison of industry leading tools. So of course, I'm not the expert. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a couple of studies revealed by the leading consulting companies of the world. So it will give you the picture on where each and every RPA tool is having their strengths and where and all they have been one step ahead of their competition. This is what we are going to see. And also on the other side, I wanted to talk about what is not included in this. So if you are expecting a demo of the tool, no, that's not going to be done here. And in case if you people have attended any of the workshop, and if you are thinking of do-it-yourself steps, no, that is not something I'm going to cover. The reason is those items would be possible only with 2 things. Number one, you should have a tool installed in your machine, and obviously you should practice it by yourself, right? So this is not something just by showing it, it's going to help. And the second main reason is there are certain costs involved for each and every tool, and also there is a lot of videos available in the YouTube on specific RPA tools on a specific section. So with the intention of utilizing this next 1 hour with the maximum efficient way, I'm not going to cover those do-it-yourself or a tool demo steps. So with that, I just want to give a pause and would like to know, is there anything else anybody in the call would like to hear? Okay. So as I said, first we will understand what is RPA. So normally what used to be done is, anybody wants to know what it is, you can very well Google it. So the one what you are seeing in the bottom of the slide is what you will be seeing as the definition for robotic process automation. So when the definition is being given, obviously you will be able to understand it from there, saying that how the automation technology is coming and how the metaphorical software robots are coming up and what it is going to be used. For an example, in the definition, you will be able to see it's a form of the business process automation, right? So any process that you do, it can be automated as long as it's being done on the screen that you have, right? And on the other side, even I do understand last week there was an expert from the academic end. He presented a slide on artificial intelligence. So I'm sure many of you or most of you have attended that as well. So RPA is also trying to bring in the artificial intelligence into it so that the robotic process automation tools are going to do the self-learning as well. But while you might have all understood these things or read this definition from the Googling of the pages, I would like to add a little bit more information so that you will be able to get much more clarity on this. So let's go with these 5 bullets I have captured here, right? So number 1, it's a task. So what is a task? Let us think about a simple scenario. Let's say somebody is going to a new web page, which is asking for an user ID and password. So what that person has to do, first access that particular web page, provide the user ID, provide the password in the respective fields, and then click the submit button. Very simple, right? It's a simple transaction or a task, I would say. If this kind of activities, this is a very, very basic scenario I'm talking about, but like this, there can be many scenarios. So think about that kind of a task. So when the task is there, there should be a rule. So in the same example I'm talking about, let us think of a scenario where the rule says the user ID cannot have space. The user ID cannot have, let's say, any special characters. The user ID can be alphanumeric only, just an example, right? So those kind of rule-based mechanism will still be there. Those things also required. So types of data. So here I would like to give an example on what we are talking about when we say type of data, okay? Let us take an example. This is an example I thought might be more appropriate for this particular forum, because I hope most of the people who joined this particular session are mainly from academic side. Though you are from a level of a student or a staff or a research scholar, which I have found in the registration link, still you are all connected to a one point called academics, right? So let us think about a scenario which is happening on the educational industry. Let us think of a scenario where there is an educational fair happens and one of the colleges is providing 2 things. Number 1, a physical papers where people can get the form, fill it by themselves, and they can submit it back in the same stall. That's a simple scenario. And second thing is people who are not attending that educational fair, let us assume they are getting a link to their emails as a point where they can log in and provide the information, okay? With this, we are talking about 2 different things, right? Number 1, people are submitting their data through an online form. Another thing is people are submitting their data through the physical application forms. So both the ways, the type of data is different. So if you really look at, one is an electronic data, another one is a physical data. So these kind of data is also there in the world. Next one is interfaces. So here you can think of upstream, downstream jobs. As I hope most of you are from a computer science background, you'll be able to understand this. Just in case if it is not, let us think about a scenario where there are 3 tasks involved. So the task number 2 can be done only when the task 1 is completed. Similarly, task number 3 can be started only after the completion of task number 2. So what happens is the interfaces, basically the medium through which the communication happens between 2 different systems. That's what we are talking about, interfaces. From a software standpoint, you can think of a middleware technologies for an example, BizTalk or MQ series, all these things. But on the other side, there could be simple things like sending a message through an XML, right? That's also a possible interface that you can think of. So the last thing is mode of input. So the two examples that I called out in the college application form is, one is a physical paper, another one is an electronic data. With all these things put in place, now let me try to explain you what is RPA in this particular world. Okay. So all the tasks that we talked about, let us say somebody is submitting data through programmatically, somebody is submitting their data through physical papers, somebody is sending it through an XML. So there are various type of data coming from different interfaces with multiple modes of inputs. But the task that we have to do is very simple. All the data have to be collated into one system, and there has to be some validation to be done. So that is what the task and rule is talking about. So that can be done by an RPA. So automating the task that we have as per the regular and agreed rule based on different type of data, different type of interfaces, and the multiple types of inputs, that is going to be the place where RPA is going to help us. So hope this simple scenario helps you to understand what is RPA. Is there any question? Okay. Staff members from Meenakshi, hope I'm audible and there is no disturbance on the line, correct? Can everyone hear me? Hello? Okay, yeah, thanks for the confirmation. So moving on to the next one, as I said, first I would like to talk about the need for an RPA also. In the whole scenario that I talked about, if you look at, let us assume there are 10,000 physical forms were submitted by the visitors who came to the particular stall. Think about it, right? On the other side, let's say 20,000 people submitted their data through an electronic form. Let us assume first 20 different forms are taken, which was received on the first 2 hours of the educational fair. So to process them, let us assume we are going to request one of the staff members to do that. And that particular staff member might be taking a laptop and entering all those information. Or let's say they have a database where they are trying to feed into that. Okay. But what will happen if the entire tons and tons of data has to be processed manually? So one possible scenario is there is a possibility for a manual error, right? Basically the accuracy could be missed out, or because of continuously doing the repetitive work, there is a possibility for missing this chance, right? So that's where the need for RPA is coming in. So hope you are able to see the picture that comes up now. So first thing is we are talking about accuracy here. So since it's going to be the job that done by a program is going to do this, obviously the accuracy is going to be always 100%. So when I say always, that explains what is consistency means, right? And the productivity. So if somebody is going to do it manually, the amount of effort that particular person will be taking will be really humongous. Whereas with an RPA put in place, it's going to be maybe 1/100th of whatever amount of time it's required. For an example, we have scenarios where a 16 minutes process that used to be done by a human person used to be done within 14 to 16 seconds of the bot. That is the level of productivity we are talking about. Okay. And reliability, no need to explain. Basically, when the accuracy and consistency in place, the reliability is always there and it can be completely understood. So next one is manual effort saving and upskilling of employees. I'm sure most of the people who are attending this particular session are Gen Y people. So who really want to prove themselves by learning more and more things every day. Point number one. Point number two, they do not want to sign up for something a monotonous kind of a jobs. So what happens is one way we will be able to save the manual efforts by deploying the RPA bots. and then we will always be able to upskill the people on the activities where it demands more and more innovative and creative ideas. It could be putting in a new architecture in place or thinking in those lines and bringing a very high level and innovative design. All those things is possible. So obviously, one way we are making the task to be done with 100% accuracy all the time. On the other side, we are going to take care of the members who will be very having a passionate things towards doing a lot of new stuff. And one more important point, which I would say the most important point of RPA is the coverage. So for an example, let's say there is an application and it will be keep generating data and somebody have to process the data and it will happen 24/7 entire 365 days of the year. So obviously it is going to be very tough for any individual to do this. So eventually what will be required is we need a bot which will take care of it round the clock, all the days, right? So with that, I would like to jump on to the next slide. So only one more point. Normally there is a used to be a thinking of where the RPA is coming when we had a different world in the past, which always had an automation. So that's a very valid doubt. In case if any one of you having it, please understand that RPA is an additional flavor of automation. But what is the best part of it is it is going to give you a readily built tool. You don't need to explain from the beginning of what is going on or how to build that automation and everything. Okay, so that's a great part of the RPA tool is. So you can think of two different scenarios. One is you are writing a Java program from the beginning using a text editor versus you are using an IDE like Eclipse for an example. So that is a difference what you can think of when you are preparing a script-based automation to what really being done when you are going for an RPA tool. So is there any other questions on this? So obviously I'm monitoring the chat window where you will be able to post your questions. So I'll answer them then and there. Okay. Moving on to the next section. Before we get into the tool related sections, we have to understand the 5 different items. One, the business rules, which I have explained in the past. Basically, what is the specific requirement and how it has to be automated, right? And the second thing is very, very important, standardizing a process. So what will happen is there are many customers where we have seen this scenario. If there is a process in place and if the process is having couple of steps which is not required or one of the steps which is incorrect, then what will happen is when you automate it, bot is not going to evaluate it. Bot will be keep doing all the steps that you have asked that bot to do. So what happens is an incorrect step or irrelevant step also would be done multiple times without stopping. So the best thing would be first standardize the process, what you have in place, and then think of automating it. This is a very, very fundamental law that any person who works on RPA has to know. So third one is the defining of input data. So in the example that I mentioned, right? First, I said one example as a physical form of papers are being submitted by the applicants. Second thing is people are submitting their application form online. In both examples, if you really look at what is the input data we are going to capture, that is well defined. Because if you are not going to define that input data, it is going to be so tough because the bot cannot make any imagination on what to do with the given input. That's main thing. Okay. So the desired interfaces, yes, as I said, the interface could be anything. It could be from an upstream job, which is sending us electronic data, or somebody is filling the data on online, or it's a physical paper being given as a physical copy, or it could be a scanned image as well. For an example, let us say you got a image, which is a scanned copy of one of the written document, for an example. So it could be of any such kind of input, and the interface could be any job that is feeding it. And last but not least, the control and maintenance of the bot. So I'm sure some of you might have seen a news that has come a couple of years ago on what happened to the bots, 2 different bots which were deployed in their environments by 2 different giants of the IT industry. So they started interacting with each other. So it was a big surprise by then. Okay. So what happened is both of those bots were interacting with each other in a language which is not at all existing. So the surprise was how they were making a particular language in place. And second thing is how they started interacting, because this is not something they were programmed for. So what I'm saying is controlling of any software robot that we are putting in place has to be taken into consideration. Otherwise, it will be a problem. And I'm sure you would know, whenever you are going to a particular online application, you might have seen an image called "I'm not robot." So you might have been asked to fill something like a reCAPTCHA by means of putting for an image that has some numbers to it, and that numbers used to be scattered. The reason I'm telling that is also an input data, but they are making sure the bot does not able to understand it. The reason why I'm telling this is controlling of the bot and maintaining of the bot is also important while all the previous 4 inputs are ready. So let me quickly check the chatbot. Okay. Good. So now let's move on to the very important section of the whole session, which talks about how to work with a RPA tool. So for this, I would like to have 3 different sections. In the first section, I'm going to talk about 3 different components that every RPA tool is having in it. So let us put a simple example. Consider first I'm automating something, then that automated robot has to keep running, as I was selling, let's say 24 hours, all the 7 days. And still I need a controller. That's what I was talking about in the 5th bullet on the previous slide, right? So for developing a bot or for automating steps of a particular task, we need something as a development box. Okay. So normally in every RPA tool, it used to be called in a different terms. You can hear terms like studio or modeler. So this is where the automation is going to be done by means of doing the interfaces and processing whatever is required. That is what being done in this particular component. And second component is, once I automate the entire process, I will verify that, obviously doing a different phases of testing, and then we'll put it into production. So in production, obviously the bot should not be changed. Okay. So what will be done is, during the development, we will do everything and we will give something like, you can compare an executable file. Normally you do in the software industry, right? So that bot will be deployed in a production box. So it will be keep running. That's how it is. So what's going to happen is, it will be continuously doing the activities, whatever we have educated that bot to do. And we can very well configure on what time it has to run. For an example, I can tell that a particular robot has to run only at 5 p.m. of Indian time every day. So it can do that as well. Or I can say a bot to run once in every 15 minutes all along. That is also possible. And third one is the control room or an orchestrator. So this is going to give a possibility for you on how to control it. Let us assume I have automated 5 different jobs with only one bot, whereas there is another job which has to run continuously. So I'm having only one bot to take care of the entire stuff. In both these ways, I have to make sure to manage by means of checking what is going on with the bot. Is it completely doing whatever it is intended to do? And also, is it delivering the expected results? And mostly the third one is, what kind of outcome it's coming, and is it reaching the expected users correctly? All these things we can monitor and control from an orchestrator. And even, let us say, we have to stop one bot from running, that can be done from the third one. Okay. So any questions or anything, again, I'm saying just post it on the chat box. And in case if there is anything you want to ask also, you can let me know. Let me pause for a second. Okay. As I said, the 3 different areas I talked about, right? First one I just mentioned in my previous slide on what are the components of the bot. So this is about what are the different type of applications on which we can try and automate things. So here I'm only talking about the applications. I'm not talking about anything like hardware industry kind of a thing. Think from an application which interface with anything. It could be interfacing with a hardware as well. Okay, there are three different things. So this is something which is very important. The reason is this is going to decide what kind of automations and what kind of tool we need in place. First, let us think about a very basic and scenario that is always applicable for most of us, right? A web interface. So what happens when you are going for a web interface is nothing but you will be able to see various actions. For an example, you can think of you search for a word in Google and you are finding out what are all the things available. Okay. And second scenario is you are going to a form where you are filling some data and you are submitting it. So there are two different things, right? So one is the reading, another one is writing or updating, right? Or submitting the data, I would say. So both the ways, whatever operations that you are doing with a web interface, we will be able to take them across and automate with an RPA tool. That is one type of application. Second one is a desktop application. So I'm sure you all might have heard of things like thin client and heavy client, right? So this is about the second category. So you can think of any desktop application. Even it could be as simple as a desktop application that you built to take care of your personal needs, or you can think of things like a Microsoft Office tools. For an example, an Excel sheet that has to be processed, or a PDF that has to be processed. Those things also you can think about it. And also anything like a desktop application which is built and it is going to be a thick client and it is going to interface. For an example, if you think of a financial industry, you might have an application sitting on your box where you will be putting a lot of inputs to it. Once you are submitting it, from there it will contact the server which is residing in a remote box and then it will submit it. Okay, so that is the kind of application we are talking about when we are saying desktop application. Third one is, which is very, very crucial. So people who have worked with remote applications might be able to understand this better. Okay, you might have heard about various things like Citrix or VPN technologies. So just imagine a situation where you are using your own personal laptop, but you are not working on any of the application which is deployed on your laptop, and you are not even accessing any of the web application. Whereas you are connecting to a virtual machine which is residing in a different place. For an example, you can think of a scenario where you are working with a company ABC, and that company is doing the projects for a client called XYZ. So the XYZ client might have given a visual desktop interface. First, you have to connect to that VDI and you have to do the activities over there. So as per security needs, what will be done is you will not be allowed to move forward any of the application from this ABC to XYZ or the vice versa, right? So what has to happen is your RPA bot has to interact with the VDA screen that you have opened up. So that is a real challenging experience, but still RPA bots work here as well. So for an example, if you can think of application that you've automated, and it is possible to do that only when the application is sitting in your own box. Whereas if you can think of a scenario where the bot is interacting with the VDI, that kind of things is not possible if you are developing your own application or your own automated job, because the automated job is sitting in your own system only. It is not going to be deployed with the scenario that I explained, like the computer of XYZ company. Okay, so this is the second item. So now we'll come to the third and foremost part of how to work with a bot. Okay, so when we are thinking of the ways to work with any RPA tool, there are three different ways. First option is you have a user interface given by the bot company where you will be developing things like a flowchart. So let me give an example. Okay, so I'm sure during the initial days of our software development or computer science engineering or IT computer engineering and everything, right? You would have gone through the flowcharts, and I would say nowadays school kids are doing it as well. So where you will have the action boxes, where you will have the decision boxes, and where you will have a start and end, right? A simple things where you will draw the flow chart to depict whatever has to be done in a pictorial representation. So that kind of a pictorial representation is same way used to develop the automation box also. So what happens here is, let us think about a scenario. The same old example I talked about in the user authentication, right? First step is open a new web page. Second step is go to user ID field. Third step is enter the user ID. Fourth step is go to the password field. Fifth step is enter your password. Fifth step and sixth step is click the submit button. Let us think about this 6-step process, right? So starting from opening till submitting the data, it is one step, one activity. If you have to automate this whole transaction, let us think of a scenario, as I said, where the entire automation is going to be done with a tool called Blue Prism. So Blue Prism is one of the leading RPA tools. So how the screen will look like in a tool is like this. I'm just waiting for the screen to refresh, because on the other end, I'm also checking on the YouTube to see whether the screen refreshed or not. Can everyone see the Blue Prism screen? Because, yeah, good. So if you look at the bottom, you will be seeing the various things. So this is more of object studio. That's what we used to call it as. So in the scenario that I mentioned about 3 different components, right? This is the studio component of the Blue Prism. So here we have 2 things. One is called object studio. Another one is called a process studio. So in the object studio and the process studio, what you will do is you will pick up the required object from the left side. So hope everybody is able to see this. And of course, all these screenshots you will be able to see in the internet itself. Okay, so even I have captured the images from the internet so that you will be able to go back and find out from there. And these things are available over the net, and there is no problem. You will be able to access it. Okay, so let us assume there is a start, and first you have to open a new browser. So here, if you look at, there is a box called launch. Okay, launch is one of the component available in Blue Prism. So what happens here is the Blue Prism will help you to launch the browser also. Basically, you don't even need to open the browser. So now let me connect you to the example that I explained. Okay, let us assume 10,000 forms, physical forms, were submitted in the educational fair to the college, right? So the staff of Meenakshi College of Engineering want to make sure all the data from that forms get into this. So what has to happen? There are 2 things, right? Number 1, somebody has to read the data from each and every such physical form. Second thing is they have to go to their website, which was used by the online users, and start feeding them. If you can imagine, if it is going to be in thousands, it's really, really painful, which is not kind of easy and not possible to do the 100% accuracy over there. Okay. So what happens is we will be feeding those forms like a scanned image, for an example. Okay. What will happen is every time the bot can open a browser and feed the information, whatever you are seeing in this, and then it can submit. So to that level, it's easy. So here I would like to call upon another one also. So hope you are able to see where my mouse is now. So you will be able to see the choice and decision boxes. So the decision box is going to help you to find out what is the action required in the positive scenario versus negative scenario. So with this, you will be able to process all the business process steps without stopping at any point of time. So with this, I'm sure you are able to understand how the object studio and process studio works in Blue Prism, how somebody with a simple flowchart knowledge can work with the Blue Prism in automating entire business process. Just for your information, Blue Prism tool is developed by using the software programming language Java, and you do not need, I would say, maybe 80%, you do not even need to know the programming part of it. Just with a simple logical reasoning, you will be able to do that. That's the greatness of using the RPA tool Blue Prism. So let's just quickly go back to the window to check the question part. Okay, good amount of participation. Thanks for everybody who joined. Yes, I noted. Okay, there is no question as of now. Okay, now let us move on to the next tool. So I would like to think about automation anywhere. So here I would like to talk about two different things. Number one, it has an editor. I'm sure you are able to see in this particular UI, right? So it has an editor where you will be able to select each and every object and you will be able to interact with them. So when I say interact, what I am saying is instead of using the UI, what you have seen in Blue Prism in Automation Anywhere, you will be able to pick the component from the left side menu. For each and every component, you will be able to write your own commands also. So you can think of programmatic way plus using the UI components. That's how it is. So in this, obviously, if you are having a little bit of programming knowledge, it will be a great help. And Automation Anywhere tool as such is developed with .NET. And you will be able to see a lot of study materials in the net. And this Blue Prism and Automation Anywhere kind of tools. Another great part is you have online tutorials which has tons and tons of data. Okay. So now another great part that we have in Automation Anywhere, I would like to talk about it. So the recorder. So hope you are able to see on the top left that I'm showcasing here, while the one at the bottom right is a task editor where you will be edit each and every component. On the top left, you are able to see three different recorders. So there are three different type of recorders available. So they named as smarter recorder, screen recorder and web recorder. So what they really mean is, let us assume you are going to do some activity by yourself on your screen. The screen could be web screen or on a Excel kind of a file or on a Citrix UI, right? In all these scenarios, whatever movement you are doing, starting with movement of your mouse, even up to movement of or pressing of the keys, everything can be recorded. So when I say record, it's something like capturing each and every movement as a human being you are doing. All those movements can be replayed by the recorder of Automation Anywhere. So putting it in a nutshell, it can completely replicate the activities of a human being, what the particular individual was doing online or over a particular screen. So that is the beauty of it. So this recorder option, normally people will not immediately use it. The main reason is people might say, okay, I have certain ways to programmatically control the things I want to do it. So obviously they will go for task editor, which I explained first. But if somebody is saying, no, I know, let us say there are 8 different steps that has to be done, and all the 8 steps are always just the same, they can very well go for the recorder option also. So that's the beauty of it. So with this, I would like to move on to the third RPA tool, which is UiPath. So UiPath again has 2 different ways to look at it. So you can very well compare with the task editor, what you have seen earlier. So as I hope you are all understanding the fact that whatever the 3 screens I have seen so far with Blue Prism, Automation Anywhere and UiPath, these are all the things which is for development. Okay, whereas we are not talking about the controller or the runner over here. So we are talking about the development over here, basically the studio or a development board. Okay, so with this, what we are doing is we are designing it, we are providing the inputs to the RPA tool, saying what it has to take care, and then we will be able to validate it by running the particular bot. You can do it in development environment before deploying it in production. Once it goes there, that's where the control is going to be taken care by the controller, and the bot runner, which is the second component I explained, will be running over there. So these are the 3 different RPA tools that I wanted to walk you through. And before I go to the next section, is there any specific question? You people can post it on the comments. Okay. So now Moving on to the next section, which is kind of very interesting area. We need to talk about the sample scenarios where it is possible to use the RPA tool. So I'm going to talk about only these 3 items, and I will also try to correlate them with the examples that I mentioned in the beginning, so that as a person who are related to the academic industry, you will be able to correlate much better. Okay. So first one is, I explained a lot, login, entering the data and extract. So let us think about a scenario where you are opening a screen and you are logging in into it by providing your login and password. You are going to the next screen, and from the next screen, let us say you have to read some data. And all these steps, I'm sure now you might have understood the fact that RPA tool can do as long as you are feeding the information to it. So in this case, what happens is only the bot has to be made aware on where the data is to be read from. So for an example, in the one of the RPA tool, Automation Anywhere, I was talking about the smart recorder versus the screen recorder, right? Let us say the screen recorder is being used. What it will do is it will try to look for a particular information from a particular place of the whole screen. Let us say top right, for an example. Okay, from there it will read. But in case if the particular web page design is going to be changed at one point of time, it may not be possible for the same bot to go and fetch the particular information because the information may not be there anymore. Okay, so that's where the smart recorder comes in. So smart recorder is going to find out against a particular field. Let us say your application is going to be shown with the key value pair. Let us say first saying is student ID, and then it shows, okay, say 5442. And then it says student name. Let's say the name says Satish. And then it says department. It says computer science engineering. And then it says the current year. So it might say the 3rd year. Okay. So what happens is you can make the bot to read the values based on the key name, what is there. For an example, if you want to read only the student ID, you can feed the bot to make sure it goes to the screen. First, it fetches for the field called student ID, and then on the right-hand side of it, it will be able to pick up the student ID. That's how it is. So we can make sure the recorder is picking up those kind of information without any problem. Any question? Okay, so there is a question from William Murugesan about smarter recorder. So William, thanks for the question. So smart recorder. So I don't know whether I answered with an example. Let me quickly tell you again. Let us consider you are putting a recorder and you are want to capture all the information. So what will happen is, even if the screen design changes after 1 month, okay, but the new screen design also, I am very sure you would agree, still will call student ID as the same name only. Student ID is not going to change. Whereas it might not have been listed as the top first screen item in the list. It might go to the second one. Say for an example, the screen of the page is changed in such a way that first student name is given, where it says student name William Murugesan, and then it says where student ID is 5442, as I said. So it will be able to read it. Yeah, good that it answered yours. Okay, now let's go to the second example. Email. I'm sure you all work with WhatsApp kind of social messaging tools, and also emails for many of the mail transactions. Let us assume you open your Gmail from your friend or from your college or somebody, your colleague or someone, right? And let us assume you got an input data file. What you will do is you will just open it, read through the data, and then you will go to the next item. But let us think about a scenario. Let me go back to the same online application or academic form of submission to college, right? Let us assume there is a possibility for allowing the applications to be submitted over email. Okay, so it says admissions@meenakshicollege.com, for an example, I'm telling you. Okay, so each and every person who is going to submit the data, they are going to have an attachment. So the attachment, let us assume it's a simple HTML file. Okay, you are going to save it and you are sending it. So what will happen is you can make the bot to read each and every email coming to a particular inbox, and then it can open the attachment also, and if required you can save that attachment into a particular folder. From then you can reopen the particular attachment. Inside that it can start parsing the data it can read the information, and then it can take the required steps. This is very much possible with an RPA tool. It's not at all tough. So obviously, when you can think of a scenario where thousands of emails going to come up and it has to be processed everything, the best solution would be RPA tool. So the third one, which is very interesting topic for me always, is processing the forms. So when I talked about the physical form submitted by the students or parents for the online, for the college admission application, right? So I said one example as it's going to be a image and going to come there as a PDF file, right? So I'm sure people might have heard about OCR, but let me slightly explain it. So optical character recognition. So in case if you have wondered how come the traffic police have put in some cameras on the signals, and those cameras are able to understand the car numbers and bike numbers. So that's where the OCR comes in. OCR reads different type of font. So for an example, let us say one number plate is having a font of Times New Roman, whereas the another font has put in something like Vedana. That's possible. Whereas I'm sure there can be a possible question where somebody is writing a local regional language in the number board. For an example, let us say instead of TN01, somebody is putting Ta and Na of Tamil font, and then they are putting the 01. So obviously Ta and Na, it's not at all English letters, so it's not going to be easy. So the optical character recognition tools are made capable of reading different kind of font and nowadays different kind of languages. So that's going to read the information and then it will take the next steps accordingly. So the use cases that I wanted to talk about is, as I said, different kind of inputs coming in different formats to the college for the admission application, whereas the college will be able to process all of them in a simple bot, so that the bot even can be educated in such a way that, hey, first pick up all the people who have achieved more than 80% score in overall and more than 95% in maths, 93% in physics and chemistry. All these things they can put in place, and the bot can read all the data and they can just sort out and everything, and they can just feed it into it. So in case if you are thinking when somebody is submitting the data online, it's going to be easy. Of course, yes, no doubt about it. Whereas in case if you are thinking of a scenario where everyone is submitting a physical format, and we need things like optical character recognition, and we need a bot where the RPA tool can use the OCR tool and can process thousands of application forms that has come in. So these are the three different use cases that I thought will explain to you about the great possibilities of using RPA. So I'm not getting into industry specific things because I wanted to give this educational related item so that it will be easy for you folks to correlate. So is there any questions so far? Okay. So now let's move on to the next one, which is very important. So while we always keep studying and learning things, that's not stops there, right? So obviously we need to identify where it is going to help me, in which area I can use this. And obviously when I think of a job where it will be useful for me from an opportunity standpoint. So normally software industry I'm talking about, you would have thought of these words, right? So I used to always hear from the college students when I go for recruitment drive, they used to tell me, I know this is software, this is hardware, this is BPO job. So normally these are the three different terminologies we use, right? So you can think of application software, which talks about pure software world where application development, application support and maintenance coming in. And business process outsourcing is an area where you normally used to call out with an acronym called BPO. And infrastructure, nothing to say, basically the hardware, network, everything put in place. Okay. So now let me take few examples on these areas to explain you better. So application software, anyway, all the previous examples are from that world. So let us think about a business process software. Okay. Let us think about a scenario where it is a insurance industry. Okay. And the insurance companies, for an example, let us think about a health insurance companies. Okay. And from one family, the father of the family is submitting 4 different application forms to a agent of the insurance company. So what happens here? 4 forms, father, mother, and son and daughter, right? So all the 4 forms are submitted. So like this, there may be lakhs and lakhs, even crores and crores of application might be coming from the agent to the company. So how they can process it, right? So the forms will have a definite format. Basically, the top left will have the policy number or application number, and then the applicant name, and then his date of birth, and then his gender, all this information, right? So since the format of the form is well defined, it is very easy for the bot to understand each and every data submitted into that. You can even think of putting it into a again OCR kind of a model. That's not a problem at all. In case of online application, it's much more easy, I would say. So all these things can be captured. So from the BPO standpoint, hope the example I mentioned from the insurance industry explains you much better. Is there any question? Kapil Shyam. Okay, the question is about OCR. So Kapil, this is optical character recognition. Okay, you can go and search for it. Basically, what it does is you can think of a camera which is not only taking a snap of it but also reads it. Let us say you take a photo of the let us say let's say your examination sheet. Okay, you just take a photo of it. When you take a photo, obviously you will not be able to search any text into it because the entire page becomes a page, right? And let us say you send that page to one of your friend. So the friend is having so many such pages. So he can use an OCR. What the OCR will do is, though it is an image, it will read each and every letter from the page. Basically, each and every letter provided in the image is going to be read by the bot. So by the OCR tool. So the OCR tool makes the conversion of picture to text. That's how it is. Is it clear now, Kapil Shyam? Okay. So while we are waiting for a response from Kapil, so moving on to the next one, infrastructure. You can think of a scenario where various routers and switches, which is being used, and if you want to get the data from that, so there may be a scenario where manual monitoring of those things happen, but still a bot can interface with various touch points in those devices, and it can capture the information over there. So these are the three different areas where I wanted to touch upon the opportunities. Since good Shyam, Kapil, glad that it's clear now. So very important point. So now you know what is RPA, where to use RPA, what are the opportunities where you do that, and how to use that RPA tool. All these things you have understood now. So now coming to the industry leaders. So I talked about three different tools, right? So Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, and UiPath. And as I said, I'm not the person who make a judgment across which is the best or which is the better than others, right? So what I thought is, what are the parameters we need to take into consideration is this much. So basically, my bot should be able to scale to process more number of volume of data also. And it should be able to integrate with the other systems that I'm having in my area. And it should be obviously customizable, and it should be easy to use. For an example, if in one of the example I talked about the flowchart kind of a model, right? So it should be easy to use. And pricing flexibility. So for an example, if a company wants to invest on a particular RPA tool, so the bots will be normally like one bot will be $10,000 to $12,000. That's how the cost is. So flexibility in the pricing is also being looked at by the companies. And of course, easy to deploy. Basically, putting it into deployment should be very easy. That should not be very cumbersome process. And the quality of technical support, I'm sure even nowadays, even for getting a simple mobile phone, we will be expecting the customer support should be there, right? So based on all these parameters, there are two different reports published by two different leading consulting firms so far. And it might be a little bit old data, but still it's worth it to look at it. So first one is this. This is coming from Gartner's. So if you really look at, you'll be able to find out where the tools that I mentioned about. So the x-axis talks about product adoption, okay? And basically, who are all, which are the tools really picked up by the users very fast. And on the y-axis, we are providing the ranking. That's how this particular graph is coming. And of course, all this deck is available with staff member of Meenakshi College of Engineering. You can reach out to them. And since I'm finding most of the people are students from the college, you'll be able to pick up the deck from them. It is available for you guys. So there is another study which comes from Forrester. So Forrester, I'm sure you know, it's another leading consulting firm. So what happens is it is doing a study of how the current offering is available and what is their strategy is. Okay, so strategically how they want to place themselves. If you look at the strategy is so strong for the people like Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, and UiPath, and of course that's the main reason why I picked up those tools in explaining this in this particular forum. So with this, the comparison is done. Okay. Oh, sure, William. That's another answer from Williams. Okay. These are the inputs that I wanted to share with you guys. So question and answer. So let me quickly wait for a couple of minutes on the comment section. If there is anything, please let me know. Okay. So I'm sure this session helped a lot. So one thing before we move on. So whenever you are seeing such kind of reCAPTCHA in your future days, whenever it says I'm not a robot, I'm sure you will be able to understand the bot will say it is a robot. So please keep learning. Okay. So thank you once again to the Meenakshi College of Engineering for providing me this opportunity. Thank you so much for all the people who attended this session, and glad that some of the questions have come up, which is very, very specific to the point. It was a really good session to interact with you all folks. So keep learning. As John Holt says, the learning is not something what we teach, right? Whatever I have done in 1 hour is something, it's very simple, whereas the activity of learners have to start from here. So it's not the end, just the beginning, guys. So keep learning, enjoying the learning. Okay, wish you all the best, and reach out to public domain where so much of information available on the RPA tools. Thank you so much, folks. So members of the college, yeah, there are so many messages. TensorFlow used for machine learning. Okay, Kapil Sham, another question. So before we close, good question, Kapil. There's additional versions of latest versions of RPA tools coming up. So Automation Anywhere already started implementing the machine learning and artificial intelligence into it. So the other tools also started doing it. Yes, there is a possibility where you can implement it in such a way that instead of we teaching that bot, it can keep learning by itself. That's very much possible. To answer to you, Kapil Sham. So specific to TensorFlow, I don't have an answer. So that's a good question anyway. But integrating the machine learning and artificial intelligence, yes, very much possible. Sure, Uday Kumar. Okay, William. Oh, thanks, Violet. Thanks for those words. Sure, Kesinga Kevin. Oh, Uday Kumar, nice words. Okay, good that all the expectations were met. Sure, William again. Maithili Prabhakar, Boshi Saro, Kirtana, Deepika. Yeah, wonderful informative session. Sure, thank you so much. Thanks again, Kapil Sham. Thanks everyone. Thank you so much for all your time. Glad that it helped for many people. Thank you so much, folks. Take care and bye-bye.
Yes. Hello.
Yes, madam.
Our HOD ma'am will address. Ma'am?
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
Sir, good morning. We had a very good session, sir. You gave us a clear thought of what is RPA, how to develop and what. So I hope our students would have got benefited with this. Thank you for your time and thank you for explaining us in a very simple manner, and it was really useful. And from my side, I have one doubt, sir.
Yes, madam. Please
Shall
go
I
ahead,
ask you
madam.
now, sir?
Yes, madam. Please
Sir,
go
you
ahead.
said that we can have this form. You said you can have a physical written form using OCR. We can read it. So, from my faculty side, if I'm going to take one subject, for example, say I'm taking DAA, I am preparing a question paper. I know the answer, and I know the students is going to write. Can we have an OCR to correct the paper, sir?
Very good question, madam. It's very much possible, yes. What only thing is, each and every student's handwriting is going to be different, correct? So obviously
Yeah,
the
that's what. How will it read? OCR is going to read it.
yeah,
Because
sir,
in
that's a
general
very,
form
very
also the same thing is going to happen.
yeah, excellent question. So basically the OCR tool, there are two things has to be taught to the OCR tool. One is the format. Basically, if it is a form, you have to educate the tool on where the each and every information available. Say for an example, top left, first field is student name, something like that. Second thing is with a different font over the period, the OCR tool will be able to understand each and everything. So obviously we used to call it as training data. So the training set data has to be keep on feeding into the tool, then only it will be able to understand. Very excellent question, madam. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, it was really a very good session, sir. And we would like to have some more sessions from you like this, sir. Thank you for your coming and helping us to do this webinar. Thank you, sir.
Sure, madam. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity once again. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Vote of thanks. I thank our management members for giving me the opportunity to express gratitude on his special day. I'd like to thank all the respected representatives who have blessed us with their presence. I'd like to thank the organizing team and staff members, all other participants. My hearty welcome to our chief guest, Mr. Satish Inkashal, for making this event highly resounding success. Thank you, sir.
The feedback link has been sent. I request all participants to fill the feedback link. The session will be live for another 2 minutes. So note your feedback link.
Participants, all of you fill the feedback form.